Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to jump into a pretty radical new vision for web accessibility. It's all based on a really forward-thinking report from the W3C's Accessibility at the Edge community group. And here's the kicker. This isn't about fixing websites anymore. It's about totally reimagining the web itself.
I mean, really think about that for a second. For decades, the way we've done this is we find a problem on a website, we tell the owner, and we hope they fix it. It's slow, it's reactive, and it puts all the pressure on individual developers. But what if? What if we could just flip that entire model on its head? And this slide right here, this is the core idea. You've got the old way, fix the source, and then you have the new way, adapt at the edge. What this really means is using what's called post-source technology. These are tools that work right in your browser or on the network to change your experience without ever touching the website's original code. It's a massive shift in who holds the power.
So, the first huge idea here is what they call an intentional web. Imagine, instead of a website just throwing a million confusing options at you, what if it could actually understand what you're trying to do? This is something called intent-driven design. And basically, instead of that one-size-fits-all interface that really fits no one, this approach is all about doing one specific task and doing it incredibly well for a specific user. It just cuts right through all the noise to get you to your goal.
So what does this look like in the real world? Well, take a service like InnoSearch.ai, which is designed for blind users. Instead of trying to navigate some super complicated visual travel site, a user can just say, "Book me a flight to Boston next Monday." The AI gets the goal, it does the task, and it completely bypasses all that visual clutter. It's brilliant.
And the magic that makes all this possible is something called intent taxonomies. Now that sounds complicated, but it's really not. Think of them like a universal dictionary for user goals. A post-source system can use these to know that the Add to Cart button should work the same way on every shopping site, which creates a much more consistent and less confusing world for all of us. And you know, this naturally leads us to our next theme, putting you in the driver's seat. Let's dig into some of these technologies that are all about making the internet a truly personal space, a space that plays by your rules.
This idea is it's so powerful. Just imagine for a second. You set your favorite font size, your perfect contrast level, or your screen reader preferences one single time, and then that profile just follows you, from your phone to your laptop, even to a computer at the public library. Seamlessly.
Now look, while this would be a huge win for efficiency, the report is quick to point out that it's tricky. You have to figure out privacy, right? You might not want every single website knowing your needs, and it has to be context sensitive. I mean, the settings you want for a tiny phone screen are probably way different than what you need on a big desktop monitor with a braille display.
Let's talk about something that I think drives everyone nuts, especially keyboard and screen reader users. Inconsistent commands. You know this feeling. One website uses one shortcut. The next one uses something totally different for the exact same action. It creates this constant and frankly unnecessary learning burden.
Post-source technology could totally solve this. It can act like a universal translator. It can remap a website's weird custom command to the one that you already know and prefer. And that just dramatically lowers the cognitive load and makes the whole web feel way more predictable and stable.
Okay. So let's zoom out now and look at the bigger picture. Some of these problems, like inaccessible ads or files that won't open, are just too big for any single website to solve on its own. They actually exist in the spaces between websites.
Here is a perfect example. A website can be perfectly coded for accessibility, but then some third-party ad network injects an ad that, say, traps your keyboard or has images with no labels. The website owner has zero control over it, but for the user, the whole experience is completely broken.
So the post-source solution here is basically an accessibility firewall for ads. Before an ad ever even gets displayed to you, a tool checks it against the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG. If it fails the test, it gets rejected, and a new accessible ad is requested. It ensures that only stuff that works for you ever reaches your screen.
You know, this next problem often isn't even a technical issue. It's a business decision. The reason your work calendar won't talk to your personal calendar or why you can't open a certain type of file, a lot of the time, that's just intentional vendor lock-in. They want to keep you in their ecosystem.
And this is a perfect example of where only a post-source or edge technology can be the hero. Because it exists outside of these walled gardens, it can be that universal translator for all your files and calendars. It really is about giving control back to you, the user, so you can always get to your own information.
Okay, let's shift gears a little and talk about how we actually process information. This next set of ideas is all about comprehension, and it's especially important for neurodiverse users and for folks who use visual languages.
Being able to skim content effectively is a big deal for everyone, but it's an absolutely critical feature for cognitive accessibility. For users who can get easily overwhelmed by just a huge wall of text, being able to quickly scan the headings, get the main idea, and maybe mark a few sections to come back to later, that's empowering.
And this idea goes even deeper. For instance, a fluent signer doesn't watch a video word by word. They skim it visually, picking up on key signs and facial expressions to get the gist. Future tools could actually create visual outlines or markers inside videos to support this native way of taking in information. It's all about meeting users where they are.
So, we've walked through all these incredible, almost futuristic capabilities. Now let's just pull back for a second and look at the core philosophy that's holding all these ideas together. This quote from the report it nails it. This is the heart of what's called human-centered design, or HCD. It's not about checking off boxes on a compliance list. It's about empathy. It's about empowering people to have truly meaningful and transformative experiences online.
And human-centered design goes way beyond just making something usable. As the source material points out, it really digs into the emotional, the cognitive, and the social parts of being human. It puts individual needs first and actually involves users in the process of creating their own solutions.
And that really brings us full circle. Across all these different examples, we've explored this powerful collection of aspirational ideas: an intent-driven web that gets you, a personalized web that follows your rules, and a barrier-free web that adapts to you. And when you put them all together, they point to a single, much more human-centered future. Oh, look, these capabilities are aspirational. They're goals. They're not our current reality, but they present us with a really clear choice. The report leaves us with this question, and so I'm going to leave it with you. As we all shape the future of the internet, what kind of web do you want to help build?
Thanks for tuning in.